We are here with Pepperdine head coach David Hunt, who is going to coach the U19 team at the championships in Tunisia. And let's start off by asking you about how the team improved by competing at the USA Volleyball High Performance Championships.
Yeah, USA Volleyball gave us a good opportunity to go to High Performance Championships, take 24 athletes that were in contention to make the roster, and train for, I think, 4 or 5 days. And then at the completion of our training, we were able to go and split our group into 2 equal teams of guys that we wanted to evaluate and go and compete. And one of those groups was able to win the tournament. That was a pretty cool experience. And we were able to evaluate the guys that were in contention to make that roster. And at the end of the competition, we were able to cut our roster to 12 guys that we felt would give us the best chance to go to Tunisia and compete at World Championships.
I want to ask you to identify any single player or players to keep an eye on, but collectively, can you tell us what the strength of this team is?
Yeah, I think we got a bunch of guys that have really good volleyball IQs. So, collectively, there's just guys from across the country that continue to impress the coaching staff on a daily basis. And I think the combination of their volleyball IQ, what they have already, and then their ability to learn in the gym every day sort of defines this group. We've had 4 days here to train before we leave, and that's not much time, but the guys have made the most of it, and they've made the most of it not by anything that our coaching staff has done, but just their investment in the process of getting better and their investment in probably each other. This is probably the third or fourth year that this group has been together, or a core of this group has been together in some capacity. So I'm just thankful that they let me join in, and I'm excited to see what they can do in a few days.
Speaking of the coaching staff, I have good news and bad news about your coaching staff. Which one do you want first?
It doesn't matter. It's up to you.
Okay. The good news is that there's 11 combined national championships on your coaching staff. Of course, Kevin has 7 of those, but the bad news is that you're the only one without one.
Yeah, and it's probably not good that Kevin's not going with us either, right? So maybe the guy that has the most national championships isn't going to be with us. But, Colin McMillan and Nick McCray are the 2 assistants with us, and then Nate Go is going to be our technical coordinator. So right, fresh off a Olympic berth, Nate's joining us and going to the World Championships, so we feel pretty fortunate having him along. And our coaching staff is really experienced. Colin's been doing this for a while. Me and him are really familiar with each other. I never had an opportunity to work with Nick before this summer, but obviously I've seen him from afar, and I know the work that he's done with Long Beach State, and I've watched their rise over the last few years. So it's been fun to be in the gym with all those guys. And you touched on Kevin. Kevin was with us in training, but I believe they start school maybe this week, so he was unable to join us because now he has an increased responsibility at Ohio State. So it was a little difficult for him to get away and miss the first 2.5 weeks of school.
Well, you touched on my next question. Pepperdine, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Long Beach State all have players, student athletes on this roster, and they start class on August 26th. So obviously the players from those schools are going to miss the first week of class. How are you and the rest of the coaching staff going to help these student athletes with missing that first week of class?
Yeah, I think all of these guys are mature beyond their years in terms of, when you're in the gym, it doesn't feel like a bunch of 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds. So there's no doubt in my mind that they've front-loaded it with their coaches, their professors, their advisors. All those universities are supportive of men's volleyball in this unique experience. So the guys, I think, are going to be great or have been great already, and it hasn't been an issue. So they'll have a little catching up to do once they get back, but they'll be all right.
You have 3 players on your U19 roster that are going to the joining you at Pepperdine. How does it feel to be coaching them?
Obviously, we're familiar with each other, so there's a good relationship. And, in training, I don't know. Hopefully, all of our coaches are able to separate where these guys are going for the good of our country. So those guys, I just know them a little more personally off the court than I do some of the other guys. But it's interesting because these guys are all the best players in the country. So as college coaches, I think we're familiar with every single one of them, either in the recruiting process or just watching them play lots of volleyball over the past few years. So I think there's a familiarity with all 24 athletes that were on our training roster and the 12 that are with us now.
And two more final questions. Let's actually dig into the tournament itself. You're in a pool with the third and fourth seeded teams in Russia and South Korea specifically. How much scouting have you done with the teams in your pool, and can you tell us anything about them?
Yeah, it's tough because the ranking system is based largely off of World Championships last cycle or last 2 years ago. And as we all know, those rosters of the U19 and U21 teams carry over or change pretty much in their entirety. There's not too many guys that were moved up that then compete at the U19 World Championships twice. So it's a lot of unknown, so a lot of what we're talking about in our gym right now is just how good can we be on our own side of the net until we get familiar with who our opponents are. And at the end of the day, if we play good volleyball, we're giving ourselves the best opportunity to be successful at this tournament, regardless of what our opponents are doing. Now, we're going to see some varying styles. That's our assumption. But, that doesn't change what we have to do on our side of the net in terms of we got to serve in, we got to hit in, and we got to compete like crazy. So we haven't done any scouting. We don't really know who's going to show up from those teams until the actual tournament begins. And then we know that our first opponent is the Dominican Republic. So we know that they qualified, a few months ago, but that's pretty much it.
And I'm going to ask you a question I always ask you going into a season or championship. Obviously, you want to win the whole thing, but are there any specific goals that you want to achieve outside winning the championship in this tournament?
I haven't even thought about winning the tournament. It's a lot about making sure that this training block is really good. Then tomorrow, making sure that we get all our guys to the airport and on the plane. That can be a challenge. I haven't thought too much about winning the tournament. I think as coaches, we're just trying to maximize the talent of this group. And at the end of the day, we're either going to be good enough or we're not. So as coaches, can we get the most out of the guys that we have on the court for us? And again, we don't know what our opponent is bringing to the table. It's not like being with the senior team where, when you play Russia, year in and year out, they're going to have this guy or that guy. And, the careers at the senior team level are obviously much longer. You can't do that at the youth and junior level. So there's going to be lots of unknowns. There's going to be lots of adversity thrown our way, and hopefully we handle it in a positive manner and play good volleyball, at least in a brand that represents our country and the guys that we have in a good manner.
Well, thank you for taking time with us off the block, and we wish you nothing but the best in Tunisia, and we hope that you bring back a championship.
All right, I appreciate it, John. Thanks.